Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Ahmed Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique complementary system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi and welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on UK Health Radio. I'm Atiq Ahmed Bhatti. In today's episode I have the good fortune to welcome Tracey Simpson of Homeopathic Farm Services, which is based in Tirau in New Zealand. And like it was with Tanya Twentyman, who was on the show recently, Tracey is also on another level. And what I mean by that is that I'm actually talking to her today and she is talking to me from tomorrow. I think that's Back to the Future in some sort of reverse mode, isn't it, I think? Now, I became aware of Tracey and her work through Pat Ahern, the homeopath farmer from Cork in Ireland, who was on the show recently. Tracey is a dairy farmer and a user of and strong advocate for homeopathy and runs Homeopathic Farm Services alongside her existing dairy farm, which is based in Wautu. Tracey, it's an absolute delight to have you on the Homeopathy Health Show today. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Atiq. I really look forward to today's session, actually.
How have you been and how's the weather?
I've been well, thank you. No, I've been very well. And the weather here in New Zealand, well, today finally we've got a bluebird day, you'd probably say. It's beautiful and sunny, not a cloud in the sky. So that's quite a change for how it's been. It's been extremely wet. I think we've had our wettest year in 30 years. Second wettest year in 30 years for the past 12-month period. Lovely to see the sun today. I think everyone enjoys that, animals as well.
Absolutely. It's like that in the UK. We've had so much rain this year and now the sun is shining and I've been able to tinker about in the garden, grow some beautiful petunias and fuchsias and marigolds. It's really nice. It makes a change, doesn't it? And everybody smiles, don't they? With the sun.
No, they do. And I think just farming, nothing does very well in weeks of wet weather, kind of thing. So, and especially for that, like, we're just so sodden. Our water table is really high here in New Zealand. And so it's just great to see. I mean, the ground temperature is still quite high. So that's really good, but just need the sunlight to get the grass growing again.
Tracy, I wanted to ask you how or what life is like growing up on a dairy farm, because I know that you spent, all of your life on a dairy farm. So what is that actually like to experience? I mean, of course, I know being in New Zealand, it's such a beautiful part of the world. Surely that helps anyway. But what's the ins and outs of that on a daily basis?
Oh gosh, dairy farming's changed so much really from when I was a young, child. So growing up on a dairy farm here in New Zealand, we were based in the Waikato, and it was my grandfather's farm, and then my dad went on to share milk it back in the 1970s. I had a fabulous upbringing, really did. I was the one child in the family that would what would you say, probably fake an illness to stay at home to help them do hay, which really just consisted of just driving around next to, your dad in the truck or burning up and down the paddocks on your motorbike and not really lifting a hay bale as such, but just being around them. It was fabulous. And the silage and all of that, like they were quite big back in the day before contractors came along. So, and Dad had 300 cows. So in the 1970s, that was quite a big kind of herd. Most often it was 150 to 200, 250 maybe. But he was 300. So, fairly large numbers for that kind of era. And he was probably at the start of the what would you say, the commercial fertilizer era, where they started to kind of utilize a whole lot more of that fertilizer coming on, so you could allow for a bit more stock, I suppose you'd probably say. Really, but no, it was great. I had a fabulous upbringing. Started milking cows when I was 10 years old, actually, and Dad had a low line, so it was it was like a 30 aside, but a double up. Often you get like a rotary or a herringbone. It was a herringbone, but it was just like 60 cups as opposed to 30. So it was a really fast shed. And you'd milk in a really kind of fast manner, so it didn't feel like you had 300 cows kind of to get through as such, So really enjoyed that. And kind of Dad sold the farm when I was about 13, 14, and he ended up doing dry stock for a few years. And we were kind of off the farm. And when it was one August holidays, I was probably about 15, 16, I think. And he had a whole lot of calves come on, and I just spent the whole entire time just helping Dad with calves and just realizing, that reinforcing that love for the animals, really. So it was great. And after that, I kind of went back to school and just didn't really want to be there. So I actually just ended up getting a job on a dairy farm and leaving, I think, the day after I turned 17. So it was wonderful, so kind of born and bred on a dairy farm, and then went dairy farming for a couple of years after that, and just thoroughly enjoyed that. Just been out with the stock, and I mean that was in the early 90s by that point. And it was just a really nice lifestyle, isn't it? You still kind of could feel back then it probably was a little bit more of a lifestyle, as opposed to the last kind of 10-15 years, whereas it borderlines whether it is a lifestyle, because it's 24/7, isn't it? Farming.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But it must be it's wonderful to know, because the despite what you've just said, of course it's very, very, very busy indeed, but there's an element of calmness there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, even I say to our, anyone who comes on with our team, you've got to like the animals to enjoy dairy farming. It is such a, earlier times people would think, oh, look, any kind of dummy would go dairy farming, but not in today's realm. It's so different. It's a full-on business, and you've got to be so many things all rolled into the one. But I think above all and beyond, you must have a love for the outdoors and for the animals, because that's what gets I dare say, your bum out of bed in the morning to go check on your stock, because without the animals you don't have anything. So to me, in my way of thinking, they generally kind of come first. Yeah, so that love of animals is really important. And even even for me, like if my husband goes fishing and comes back, and there's a whole different smell associated with it, isn't it? It's just those little kind of intricacies that you kind of know yourself, where you get out in the mob of animals, and it's beautiful. I really enjoy that. I love seeing my stock out
Wonderful.
there.
How big is the land itself for your farm as such?
So what we've got here right now is 140, what would it be, 140 hectares, and the other one's about 130 hectares that we're overseeing. And then there's a couple of runoffs around the 25 hectare mark. So we run just under 700 cows now, and we have our young stock on, as in just our calves, from 0 to R1. So for their first year of life, they stay with us. And then our heifers, so our R2s, or R1s to R2s, they go off grazing. So no, it's good. I mean, where we are, we're quite kind of high. We're 260 meters above sea level, and it's a really lovely area, South Waikato. It's kind of it's quite hilly. One of the farms has got 40 hectares of sidelings, which is that's challenging in itself. But overall, it's beautiful. Nice area. Those wide open spaces, they're just inground in you. You really enjoy that, just getting away from the city, away from the concrete, you'd probably say, and just being out with out in the land. It's good.
Now, alongside dairy farming, of course, you have done 5 years of vet nursing, which of course is fabulous. A lot of time commitment there needed, eh?
Yeah, that was a good period. That was after I kind of left school to go dairy farming, and then had the opportunity to go into vet nursing. started my training there at one of the polytechnics and managed to get a job. When I was at school, actually, I used to go into our local vets and work there in just one afternoon a week just to basically be around the animals. It was kind of all I did really was cleaning. A lot of them had gone by then, but you kind of got to see some of the odd surgeries, maybe if there was an accident or something, and then in the holidays I'd go on and spend time. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I actually managed to get a job there and kind of ran that vet nursing side. It was just me and one of the other vets there. So I spent a few years there at over in the Bay, and then I managed to get another job over in Hamilton in a clinic there. And the vet that I worked with, he was the greyhound vet. So we did a lot of, surgery on ligaments and things like that with the greyhound racing. And we actually took on, he took on the SPCA contract. And that was challenging. That was really interesting. And again, just, if you'd just known homeopathy, it would have made such a big difference, because especially with the SPCA work, there's a lot of tragedies in there, and, a lot of, you're dealing with, dog fights and things like that. And so just seeing these animals kind of come through. So, look, those years, it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed that, really thoroughly enjoyed those years vet nursing. And it just gave you an insight into small animals, really,
Which leads me on to your introduction to homeopathy itself, and actually a very interesting experience which you've shared with me, of course, before the podcast today, and this was in 1999 with 300 cows and the remedy chelidonium. So I'll let you fill in the blanks and everything else that I've missed out.
That's a fabulous remedy, that chelidonium, organ support. We'd gone she milking, and it was our first herd, and it was just an absolute shambles, you'd probably say. A lot of them, we didn't realise at the time, we were a little bit younger and had no idea, and we had to buy the herd on the dairy farm, and it was a whole herd of Jersey cows. We'd only really kind of had Friesians, and Dad used to have the odd Jersey. So it was quite new. But anyway, look, we started calving, and we just had some really sick animals, extremely sick. Some would calve and 6 weeks later they'd go off their milk. Some would calve and a few days later they'd be dead. And we just couldn't work it out, and so having spent 5 years vet nursing, talking to the vets, about, gosh, what are we doing? Because you were basically losing your animals. And it was just lots of B12 and giving them hay and supporting them through. There's not much you could do once they had determined that it was actual facial eczema damage. Even if you see 1 or 2 cows with actual clinical signs of facial eczema, there's a good 10 to 15% throughout your herd that you don't see, because it affects actually the liver. Now, the liver will rejuvenate to a point, but just how far, you just don't know. And often when they're heavily pregnant, they'll actually kind of live off the calf's liver. And then once the calf is born, that's when, it can be a bit of a tipping point for the cows. So we basically nursed our way through that first kind of calving and into that kind of summer. And I was introduced, my sister-in-law said to me, I should go see a homeopath for myself, actually. I can't even think what that was over, something to do with me. And I had no idea even what they were. And she was like, oh, it's just a natural kind of way of, helping you. And it's not so much, medicine based. It's just like with like, I think she was kind of saying to me. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, oh, she does animals as well. And I was like, oh, righty. I just still had really no clue. So I made an appointment and went along to see Tenica Vercade and did an hour and a half with her talking about whatever was going on with me. And then she said at the end, how are your animals? And I said to her, terrible, and told her the story with the facial eczema. So she said, oh, would you be interested in trying, something? I said, oh, of course. So she, you're kind of at that stage of being a bit desperate. And so she got this bottle of chelidonium and went home, and she told me how to administer it just via the trough. And it was just a game changer for us. You went out as usual, when you first get your first bottle of homeopathy, you often get the administration details wrong. And that was at the stage where she'd just tell you, nothing on the bottles at all. And so I think I dosed for like a good 3 weeks, before I actually realized, oh gosh, was I meant to stop that after 4 days? So I kind of carried on going. And when I rung Tenica, all in a bit of a panic, and she said, well, how are your cows? And I said, well, actually, they look really good. They were dried off by then. And they were scarring. They were quite dirty around the back end, but they actually just looked better. Their eyes seemed brighter. They were weight gaining. It was just, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was a change, there definitely was a change. And that next calving, we didn't lose anything. And that was amazing compared to the previous year of losing, at least 10 that I can recall. And then, but not only that, just the sick ones that you managed to get on the truck before, it was just so depressing when that's your stock and your first year share milking. But anyway, and that was the first start of, my introduction to homeopathy, funny enough. And then by the time we started calving in the following July, I was ringing her saying, well, what have you got for mastitis, or what have you got for, I think we might have had, a couple of pinched nerves or something. And so it just went from there. And I think I got through to the following February before I treated one cow with penicillin, because they just were basically, all kind of treating with homeopathy and having such a good result. It was fabulous. I didn't actually have to use hardly any penicillin. And that was, such a game changer. It was really awesome, actually. So we were there for 7 years. And, just nothing was too much of a problem for the stock. Once we got onto homeopathy and did a bit of both, certainly there was times that you needed the conventional, medicines, but homeopathy really, was a complete success there. It was good.
What do you remember about, what was that feeling like? I mean, what were you thinking when chelidonium showed its healing properties? And did you attribute it to homeopathy, or were you at that time thinking, I wonder, was it that? Was it not? How did that work? It must have raised so many questions, right?
It did. But what it did, Artik, was actually just made me realize that I want to know more about this. If that could be such a big change on my cows that we'd battled with for a year, there was nothing else that had gone into that. That was definitely the chelidonium, because it's an interesting question that you say that, because often, and even today's time, you still get the odd client go, well, the weather came right, so I don't know if it was the remedy of the weather or something, but the best thing with animals is that they don't lie to you, do they? That they actually just don't lie to you. And that's really heartening in a world where they always want to look on the negative side of homeopathy or attribute to something else. So that's the best thing. And that's what I say to people now. I've got quite a good few friends that are vets and different things. And some of our conversations can be like, well, the animals don't lie, like something changed, and you can see it in their whole demeanor, whether you're treating them on a mental, emotional, kind of level, or if it's more therapeutic. You just see it in the stock, you see it in the animals. And I think that's just a game changer. And so for me, it took me, well, what was that, 99? I started training in 2008. I had kids over that period. So it took me, another 10 years before I managed to kind of get trained. But I just needed to know more. Like, what was this stuff, And I used to work at the local pub over that period too. And so there was lots of farmers down there. And so we would just discuss cows all day long. It was kind of, I'm a bit like that. And, and then I'd say what I'm using, and they're like, is that like that witchy stuff? So you kind of always attribute it to that. But I'm like, no, not at all. But it's as I say, just animals can't lie. It was just enthralling for me to see that. It was just an absolute game changer. Like, I've been brought up very conventional on every level. And even, my mum used to say, like, what is it that you do? Like she still couldn't even figure out when I got trained, like, why do you want to do that? It's funny. It's a hard case, that whole thought process towards homeopathy. You think it's been one of the oldest medicines, but it's still relatively new. And sometimes for people it's amazing. But once you start saying a few different remedies, then they go, oh, right, it'll something, or my grandmother or my mother used to give us the odd thing. It always kind of worked, but I never knew what that was. That's kind of what you get, with humans. But, with animals, it can make such a big difference, eh? It's great.
I like the way you said that, with humans. Yes.
Yeah.
It goes without saying what you're doing is so admirable, and it's the good work that you're doing, which actually is almost self-promoting, because when people see healthy livestock, healthy cows, then naturally the question must arise, what are you doing which is so different to ours? And that's where homeopathy, of course, comes in. And, times are changing now. I'm sure you've seen before, perhaps, where it was very much, what is this? Now it is quite open, and people are willing to hear about it, and to, whether or not they use it, it's totally different, but they're willing to understand it and think, oh, okay, there is something there. And that you never know, in a couple of years, the same person who's asked you that, or several people, everyone has their own time, right? But they always will come back and think, okay, let me try this, because Tracey's been using it, and we've seen the results. So the example speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And that's it, because I often think, that you're a little bit alternative, that you're going to look a little bit hippified, that you're just kind of on a different level, and I still get the odd questions, and it's really funny at field days and things, and people go, oh, does it, not so much now, but you get like, oh, does it really work? And I've just got to be a bit careful, because I tend to roll my eyes a bit and think, well, Christ, do you think I'd be standing here with a business if it didn't work, if we didn't get results? Like, I am kind of results driven, and there's just some things that you can't quite explain, and you just have to let that go sometimes. Often around farmers about, they've got 300 cows in one paddock, and you're telling me to put like a capful. Is that it? I get this kind of question quite often. I go, yeah. And they go, really? And I go, yeah, just give it a go. And animals will tell you, the results, that you'll see that. And that's why we repeat it. It's a lot of, like, especially now, it's a lot of training and just really building their trust in that what they've chosen to do for their animals will have a good effect. That's really important for farmers, because if you're going to go into a certain field, you want to know that you're going to get results. And sometimes, as I often say to my, the people who we deal with, is, listen, I'll give you a guideline, because it's quite different from treating humans, obviously. I'll give you a guideline, over this is how I think it should go. But your animals ultimately will tell us, it's going to show, for every action, there will be a reaction. It's just which way, will it go? And I'm probably thinking more or less around that mastitis and even some of the remedies we're using now, as opposed to maybe what Tenica would do, but we're certainly going a little bit more into the combinations, because I think in today's world, like where my father was farming, 30, 40 years down the track, it's quite different. And the layers are quite, I think, well, I'm not too sure, but it seems a lot more heavier in the sense of a lot more layers, that things are much more faster, and they're not as relaxed as what they were, and there's a lot more toxins out there. So I think with some of the combinations, and often with cows, they're not just actually eating pasture now. There's a lot of DDG, palm kernel, a lot of brought in mixes, a lot of blends. So I often wonder, what's the load like on the liver? So we've kind of been doing quite a few different remedies, and just those combinations to, so when farmers ultimately choose to go the homeopathic way, that you get a result. I'm talking that more general terms, as opposed to that's probably more overall animal health, as opposed to certain conditions that you're treating. One comes to mind that we do, which is our mineral alfalfa and chelidonium mix. And that's worked out really well. And it's just to stimulate the liver at a low level constantly, because it's quite different. Like we look to treat animals sometimes, over a 6-month period, because it's just those little kind of short bursts of stimulus to get those results, to keep them kind of well tuned, because they really are athletes, and I do think their cellular turnover is a whole lot faster. If you see quite a sick animal, within 24 hours that can change really quite fast. So you have to kind of match that intensity sometimes with some of the remedies that you're giving, and just understanding that they are working animals, especially cows, because they get up and basically calve, and then from then they're milking all year, producing milk. And so you've got to support them. Farming's changed from just the pasture based, how we used to be here in New Zealand. That's actually, you'd be hard to find someone doing just a pasture based system now. A lot of it has whether you've got some sort of feed system going in, or something like that. So it's just interesting. It's a whole different way of farming to how we used to. what I noticed that was when we shifted from that original farm, we had 300 cows there, and the farm owner there was really big on liming, so it's a lot of calcium going on. And so my success rate with homeopathy, I didn't realize at the time, was actually really quite high there, because I think that the farm, even though the farm had its issues, and we were like a system too, so just a bit of silage and that would make everything, all our surplus on farm, and then feed back out to the cows. And when we came to this farm, and that's when I really realized the value of just with different farming systems and the way of the different fertilizers. And I really battled for a couple of years with my homeopathy here, because it was just, and that's when I think there's a lot of urea going into the mix here. There's a lot of chemical fertilizer going into the mix, the overall cow health, because we had to sell the herd and buy a fresh herd. So I was literally starting all over again. And it took me a bit to kind of figure out how best to address that. Realistically, I suppose I saw my biggest gains when I managed to convince the trust, because we work for a Māori trust here, to get off that fertilizer level in the sense of going more biological with the soils, because at the end of the day, you are what you eat, and there's no different from humans to animals. And so, if you've ever dealt with a really sick person with homeopathy, and, they're filling themselves with just absolute kind of terrible foods, you're battling there a bit. You can make small grounds or small gains, but you don't get the real successes as what you'd like to see when someone really actually looks after their body and you're just putting them back in balance as such. So once we changed the fertilizer program around here where we are, and kind of got back, and it's taken years, it doesn't all happen in 1 year. The uses of homeopathy with my cows have been so much more beneficial, because it was like it took off I don't know what it did. It must have taken off a layer of chemical. And I actually went through and gave all the cows urea and potency. I should probably need to do that in a different level with maybe some of your NPK scenarios, because the fertilizers at the end of the day, and they say it's all just nanodoses, right? So it won't, have any effect. But look, 20 years down the track, you can see the effect on the environment. You can see the effect on everything. So it does have an effect, and it's just understanding that with the cows. And even I deal with a lot of different farmers all over New Zealand. You have the same battle. I can understand from their perspective when things aren't kind of going right, and if we even think about staph, deal with so many farmers, and some guys, have to, the Staph aureus, the infection, causes a lot of mastitis. It's an absolute nightmare. And so some guys will cull out 30 odd cows at the end of the year and go, it's all good, dry cow everything with antibiotics, and then start calving the following year and start getting into their flush peak and realise they've got staph all back, because it's just like there's that susceptibility there. And a lot of those guys are really heavy on their fertilizers and urea and all the rest of it, kind of thing. And then you've got other farmers that, won't cull the cows and use penicillin, but they actually use a lot of homeopathy with that. And you have such better results with that, combining the two, and it's really interesting looking at the different scenarios and just understanding the different levels of intensity. So in a sense, the different layers, I suppose, what the cows have to fight with, I suppose, to even get some sort of actual health back for the animal as such. You understand what I'm kind of saying here? It's just been it's been an eye-opener for me the last 4 years, talking to so many different farmers. Like, I can see it in our farm, but it's just trying to put your finger on what layer you're dealing with, I suppose. But there's been a massive push now from New Zealand with this regenerative pastures and different scenarios. So hopefully that'll get rid of a layer of toxins, I suppose. It's just interesting. Yeah.
How are you finding it as far as, well, with Homeopathic Farm Services, which of course is genius, so congratulations on that. How are you reaching the farmers, and what is their take on this? Are they receptive? Is it booming? Is it the awareness it is creating? Just the title itself, Homeopathic Farm Services, is a question, isn't it, for anybody to say, oh, well, what's that? What are you doing here,
Yeah, no, that's where we have to give the main credit to Tēnaka Vikade, in all honesty. Like her, her foresight and seeing this opportunity with farmers back in, I think, 1997 was when she started the business officially. And just having that opening. And Tineke was Dutch born and whatnot, and was a registered nurse and went into homeopathy and that, and then built this business. So her foresight in saying that, with the farmers has been amazing, and then for me to kind of come in and buy that business off her for 4.5 years ago now. So to pick up, and someone said to me, goodness, how are you going to walk in her shoes? But big shoes to fill. And I said, I'm not going to even try and do that, like it's that was Tineke and that's what she did. But no, I'm just going to hope we can just keep pushing homeopathy out there for the farmers. So I suppose there's a certain amount of organic farmers in New Zealand that kind of use it. And I just spent a couple of weeks ago, went down to some of the land court farms, which are government run, and they're all organic now, and just did seminars down there. But no, when you say we're farmers, we're forever getting always inquiries, always talking to people, not just dairy farming, sheep farming, there's the dry stock side, there's the dairy side. There's even a bit of sheep kind of coming through now, like sheep milking, that type of thing. Quite big around the animal, I suppose, the calf rearing, because no one likes to pump their, young babies full of penicillin if they don't have to, that scenario, and small animals, dogs and cats and things like that. So, look, we're just trying to always keep the name out there. We go to all the field days around New Zealand, north and south, and doing seminars. But like I said earlier, the seminars are based around just really farmer training. Like, I even know myself, sometimes you don't need to know the history, what's in it. You just need to know, what are my options when this happens? Which kind of products, which remedies should we be looking at? So I kind of do more that type of seminar, in the sense of Tineke's seminars. She used to go right back into the remedies, right back into the understanding of it. And look, they were really good. And I think they served a purpose. And sometimes I will do that. But often now with farming, because it's just so busy, that people just need to know, right, where are my first 4 or 5 options? What's the story with those? And, just it's kind of cementing the basics, really, in some ways. And obviously, we've kind of teamed up a little bit with the Whole Health Agricultural I don't know if it's a school, with Jackie and Chris Auckland here in the UK, obviously, all over there. And so we're actually promoting some of their courses for farmers that are pretty much farmer driven, which should be good. So I can do a certain amount, but if people want to learn a little bit more, it's quite handy to have those kind of courses that are really around farmers and what they deal with daily. So that's been really helpful. But the business is going really well, it really is. And we just kind of, just supporting all our farmers as best as we can. It's those conventional fellas that I'd like to probably get a little bit more onto, because for me, I can see with the penicillin use coming less and less that, there's going to be more of a need for homeopathy. But it's just getting that trust with them and making sure that we get the right remedies. Yeah.
It goes without saying, of course, that there's a huge cost saving as well. And that's only a good thing. There's nothing negative about that at all. The fact that homeopathy is working, and working very, very deeply, and working on a very curative level. And then, to have that benefit, isn't it, Tracey, to have cost saving, is just great, isn't it?
Yeah, and often farmers do, like, they kind of say, well, how much is, like trying to work it back per dose. And it's just, like it's cents per dose. It's not dollars per dose. So it's great. And like I said to you earlier, the main thing is getting the results. That's what you're after. So, it's the trusting in the product will do its job. And even with calf rearing, that's really big here in New Zealand. And we deal with a lot of big calf rearers. And it's so interesting on kind of, getting them understanding one spray is, because we are more liquid based here. The teak, I don't know what they are like over there. Sometimes they're still using pillules, but we're kind of liquid based. So have like just bottles and small spray bottles, and that's how we administer it, either on the mucous membranes to the animals, or trough treat, or via the milk. So it's cheap as chips, really, and it can just make such a big difference to the animals. Well, it just does.
Amazing. That moves me on, Tracey, to training of staff. Now, the reason I'm asking you this is because as a homeopath, both human and animal, as you saw your dairy farm become larger as far as the number of cows that you were tending to, of course, the staff are present as well. And as a result of that, as a homeopathy, I mean, it's something in parallel, isn't it? You've got more cattle, and as a result of that, of course, homeopathy is used a bit more and more. But then how did you go about training the staff? Did they understand homeopathy at first? Did you have to do training sessions with them? Or was it just really, well, look, this is what it is. This is how we do it. And why don't you just see the results for yourself?
It's almost a bit of it, of all of what you just said there. So yeah, when we've been really fortunate in the last probably few years, we haven't had so much of a changeover of staff, which has been really good. So just I'm out there. Well, not this time of the year so much, but over that kind of calving mating period, I'm there every day. And we just kind of, talk through things. I mean, gosh, we've had one of our staff members for close to 10 years and another guy for 4 or 5 years. So it's been quite good. So they just get often they just text me, if I'm not there at the shed or something, this is what's happening, what's the remedy kind of thing. But when we're there, kind of, because I do the colostrum mob. So we just go through, and it's really quite good because you can show them pictures, and it can come to, when I say pictures, like what is the milk like? What does the udder feel like? What is the cow like? And it's just really talking to them a lot, through the day. Even just observation is key. I cannot say that enough. Just you're driving around, the farm, you're always looking for the cow that's not doing what everyone else is doing, because that's your problem cow, the ones at the back or things like that. So it's just going through those real basics. And right back at the start, when I said to you, to go farming, you've got to really enjoy the stock. And when I say to them, for people coming on, like, if you don't like the animals, don't work here. It's really simple. Like, you've kind of had to get a little bit hard-nosed, because for a while there, especially when we were out at 1,200 cows, you're relying really heavily on your staff. So you're wanting them to understand. And often you're dealing with people that they're starting their farming career. So they learn off your stock and off your gear as such. So that can be quite hard work. But, the biggest thing is making them realize that you can always be treating with something. Never let an animal go. You can always be treating her with something, whether it's in the cow shed individually or if it's in the trough. I just had to go down and look at some lane cows the other day, and we've got one girl that was being more of a chronic, just a combination remedy every day in the trough. It's just, we're constantly talking to the guys, and because we kind of have got a feed pad, we use a little bit of maize, and sometimes when they ad lib on the maize, they can get quite, like anything, the change of diet. And so we use a bit of cholesynthesis and carbo veg actually to change over, that type of thing, because they can get a little bit constipated if it's, so it's just those basics. They're really good now. And because that they see the results, they're really good with it, so it doesn't make it hard for me, because even like some of the farmers that we deal with through work, and they'll even say that, the hardest thing is remembering to take that bottle with you when you go and shut the cows away, because that's the key point to be treating. Yeah.
So I should refer to you as all as the staff are all the savvy homeopaths, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's really good, because then you start, like, if there's an issue, like sometimes you feel like, in the middle of calving, when you're getting a lot of animals coming in, you want to just boom spray Ignatia all around the shed, settle everyone down, especially when you've got a whole row of heifers or something. It's things like that. You can always be like, you're treating the animals, but often you can be treating, humans as well. It's a hard case with the kids when they were growing up, because they were, with us on the farm quite a bit. And if anyone would fall over or something, you'd pull out your bottle of arnica that you'd been using on the cows, and they were, I'm not opening my mouth, because all they could see was it was looked quite disgusting on the outside. I just had to laugh. Yeah.
From where you were many years ago, not knowing homeopathy, to where you are now, that empowerment that's been given as a result of homeopathy surely makes you just so much more professional at dealing with, your dairy farm, with the everyday trials and tribulations of a that should be a reality show, shouldn't it? Tracey Simpson, trials and tribulations on a dairy farm or something, eh? There's an idea, but we can make that happen.
Me and my, if you talk to any of our staff, I think they'd say the same thing. With between me and my husband, we've kind of almost got to have a little TV show, like on the farm, because it's just there's some crazy times, and you're just so busy all the time. So yeah, no, I totally get that.
You should use social media for that. Actually, you should record 10 minutes a week, and just remember the idea came from me.
yeah, definitely.
But no. I think, in all honesty, I know this is we're just we're going off the subject, but in all honesty, I really think that would actually be very beneficial as well to the farming community around the world, because you're actually videoing yourself and administering, and actually the results, whenever they may be. But the fact that people actually can see that, because at the moment you can either read it or of course, this podcast is brilliant because people can now actually hear it from you. But to see it as well on the farm itself, that's a whole new level, isn't it?
Yeah, and you bring up a good point there, because I know that's probably what needs to happen. I almost need like someone just following me around and just doing that, because it's so hard, because you kind of right in amongst it when you're carving, and then I haven't got time to pull my phone out all the time, different things. And we just had a scenario a couple of years ago with the calf. Yeah, and it was just that kind of knuckle under, that basic kind of thing where they're born and whether it's a calcium phosphorus imbalance. And one of the guys brought it in and thought, oh gosh, what's going to happen with this calf? Look at the knuckles on it, And I said, oh no, that's easy sorted. He was like, oh, kind of didn't, I said, no, I just use Calc Phos. He was like, oh, really? And then I got him back the next day. Like, it was not even, I should have got him back within 12 hours, because the calf was 90% better. I'd just given a couple of doses of Calc Phos, And then anyway, 24 hours later, they were dropping in some more calves. And I said, come and have a look at this calf. And I just pulled him out. He was just walking normally. And my guy goes, God, you want to market that? I'm like saying to him, I'm trying to, it's just those basics, but it's just so busy, constantly. And I just haven't got time to kind of be standing around videoing, but I probably need to, because it would be good, because you get so many views when you do video things, and it's just basics. It's just so easy. And even when I was at a Dairy Women's conference a couple of weeks ago, just talking to the woman about administering remedies to calves, and them understanding that it's actually not hard. You can just bulk treat, because as farmers, we literally don't have time to individually spray every cow or individually, assess every situation. So we actually kind of generalize it across the board. And it's the same with calf ring, unless there is a problem, So it was really interesting just talking to, a group of women for 5 minutes, and one lady going, God, you've just made it sound so simple. And I'm like, well, it is. It has to be, because you're just too busy. So it's this, and this. And it's just really straight, easy clinical pictures to follow. And this is what we do, But they're just, it would be a good thing. I often say to my marketing lady, she has to follow me around for a weekend, on the farm, and then that would be good.
That would be great. And just post them up on Instagram. And that would be great. I really would, honestly. I think it would be a big deal. It would be really, really good. Tracey, I was going to talk to you about the fact that you are also not just a homeopath for cows, but also humans. So you are a human homeopath. So do you actually get time to see patients as such?
Yeah, we do actually. So with the business, the way Tenika had it, she really kind of focused on the animal side more so. And I actually trained as a human homeopath initially. And I saw Tenika in my third year of training, and she came to the college to, teach us for a weekend. And I thought, that would be more my interest, with the cows. And so I worked for Tenika for a few years, actually just a day a week, but we were just so busy over that period. We were growing from, 700 cows to 900 and eventually 1,200. So it was, and I had 3 kind of younger kids then. So it was hard to kind of keep that up. So I did a couple of years and then left it and kind of came back and full time on the dairy farm as such. But so the human side is good. I enjoyed that, because often you're sitting there with a girlfriend chatting away and you think, oh, that could be helpful, but the animals is probably where it was at. And I went back a few years later, once I did my human training and did the animal side and just cross-credited. But with the practice as such at T-Rail, no, we definitely see humans. because obviously you start treating their animals, and then people start telling you about themselves or their children or something. So yeah, we just fit that in. That's not too hard. It's just consults and things like that. Just do a bit of both, really, because it's hard not to, isn't it? Because you're kind of talking to them about something, and then the conversation goes on and something comes up and you think, well, just take a bit of this. And they go, oh, can I use those remedies for us? Totally.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so it goes hand in hand. It's been really good. And even with my own children, it's just, you can stop a doctor's visit. You seriously can. And even just, it's interesting, because the more people that you can kind of get to know and associate with, there's so many little issues out there that homeopathy just addresses so well and so easy. So it gives them a real confidence in what they've chosen is going to have that result, especially when it comes to little kids and things like that. So yeah, no, it just goes hand in hand. I'm actually pleased that I did the 6 years of training to, have both sides, because I feel it gives you a little bit more value.
It is hard when you're actually training. Of course it is. And 6 years is a long time. But now looking back, it's such a short period of time actually to what you've achieved in a short period of time subsequently. Because when it comes to illnesses in cows, of course, or animals, that can be quite a troublesome time. And it can obviously be a very costly time as well, a very sad time. And now to be in this position where you're thinking, oh, do you know what? This is what they need now. And this is, let me do this and let me do that. And you make up so much time, don't you? You actually make that time up because you become more efficient, more professional, more streamlined.
Yeah. And I do think, you do the training, but the real learning, really starts when you start treating, your animals or the people. You've got the basis there, but and even I'm still so kind of new to it, as opposed to what other people, the experience that they have, and even just finding your way with the world that you're finding yourself in, and understanding we've got to change tracks a bit. We've got to be able to bring in different kind of all the combination remedies, even looking at different potencies now, bringing it back to more, the 3 C's, the 6 C's, things like that. We were trained very classical, and I don't really kind of stick to that now, which is great. There's no kind of rules in that sense, but it's certainly it's quite good, because it's challenging. It's challenging, but it's rewarding. And when you get some really good cases and you see some really good results, it just makes the cases that that you're really kind of battling with different, approaches or different layers. It just makes you realize that you've just got to keep going, because you will get there. And often I skill my guys up and to say, look, we've just got to get rid of one kind of scenario and see what happens underneath. And even because, you're dealing with mastitis or lots of groups of cows, or it's just we'll start with one, kind of start with this remedy, and then a certain amount of animals will go, then we'll go to the next, and things like that. It's interesting. It always keeps your mind active, doesn't it?
You from what you've said, it seems to be, being switched on 24/7. So I'm going to ask you, do you actually get any time for any hobbies? Or is dairy farming your hobby?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I don't actually probably have any hobbies as such. I don't know what my hobbies are. I don't really. That sounds a bit boring. I haven't had time.
I'll give you a hobby, which is do those videos. That's a hobby, isn't it?
Yeah.
That can become a hobby, and I think you'll be as far as homeopathy and farming is concerned, you'll be an internet sensation.
I know.
I'll promote it on one of my podcasts too.
Yeah, no, my daughter, she comes with me with carving, because all the children love the animals and that, and so she was kind of doing videos. But when you haven't been brought up with social media, and then all of a sudden you don't see what you're actually doing. All you go is, oh, my hat's a bit funny, or oh no, I don't like. Oh, have I got cowshed on my face? So you start to kind of, oh no, don't post that. Whereas the children, like back at that, they just post anything, selfies, but it just hasn't been our era. But I have to kind of get over that, because it would be good.
Tracey, it's been an absolute delight and pleasure to have you on the Homeopathy Health Podcast today. Honestly, I've loved talking to you. Tracey Simpson, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me, RT.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.